1. I had something happen last night. I was driving home and listening to music, and I began to slow down for the stop sign before my house. And I was thinking about the fabric of reality and if it was an illusion, or if it was manipulable by my perception, like the photon and the two slits experiment. And bam, I swear to God, this really kind of scared me. The stop sign wouldn't come. My music kept playing, but the stop sign wouldn't arrive. The same handful of yards, like 3 feet of fence and road, just kept repeating and stretching. It's hard to explain. Like 2.5 minutes went by. I almost started to cry, but I held it together. It was long enough to notice my song almost finished. I was just in awe of how long it went on. I was just looking at it like a look. It wasn't ending. The stop sign would not arrive. I started to wonder if I was stuck. So I thought to myself, well, I got here thinking about it, so I'll concentrate on thinking about it again. And so I did. I focused, and I finally moved forward and got to the stop sign. Then just past the intersection, I started thinking about it again, and it starts happening again for maybe 20 seconds just before my house. And I was thinking, nope, fuck this, and just tried hard not to think about anything, and snapped out of it, and sped into my driveway and bolted into my house. This was so long and so vivid, I was able to check the clock several times. I was only a handful of yards away from that stop sign. There's no way it would have taken almost 3 minutes to get there. I had already began to brake for the sign. My song had just began when I started to hit the brakes, and it was finishing by the time I reached a full stop at the sign. I swear to God, this is exactly what happened. 2. This incident happened when I was in my teens, around 14 years old. For the sake of this story, I'll be known as Donovan. I was staying with my grandparents at the time. We lived in a 3rd-floor apartment. It was my grandmother, grandfather, and my uncle and me. My uncle we will call Aaron. Aaron is 2 years older than me, and he was my best friend, and my mortal enemy. Both my grandparents were at work that day, and it was now evening, so they were making their way home. Me and Aaron had returned home from school, eaten a snack, and went outside to join our friends. We spent the majority of the day outside laughing and playing with friends. It was now dusk. The lights in the apartment buildings were on and bright. Me, Aaron, and a few of our friends were now on our way home from a walk to 7-Eleven. We had worked up a small appetite from an evening full of football in the field next to our apartment building. So we were on our way back to our front stoop, ravaging through our snacks, cracking jokes on each other, and horsing around just as young men do. Aaron, being the annoying older uncle, was in the middle of teasing me hard. Me, feeling embarrassed and lacking any good comebacks, yells, "Fuck you," very loud. It bounces and echoes off the buildings, instantly making me regret not the words but my volume. As we turned the corner, bringing our building into view, something caught my eye. From our position across the street from the building, we could see the 3rd floor from the huge glass window on that floor. Going up the stairs, I could see my grandma. She was wearing her red coat and scarf with matching hat. Her hair was in the usual single braid snaking down her back, and hanging across her body from shoulder to hip was a tan and green cloth newspapers bag that she used to carry her uniform and everything else she needed for work. My grandmother is very distinct looking. She's very small in build, 4'11" and 97 pounds, with a forehead that's a little bigger, and a face that's narrow with a small nose, and pretty pronounced big brown eyes. Think Ethiopian, or a beautiful-looking alien. Her skin is paper bag brown, and she has long, beautiful black hair that came down almost to her waist. There wasn't anyone in our building, or for that matter the whole apartment complex, that looked like her. I pointed to her, making Aaron and the others aware of her presence. We all began to wave, but she had already reached the last set of steps, and her back was now to us. Though now her back was to us, we had all seen her face before she turned. She then walked to our apartment door, unlocked it, and entered. Me, Aaron, and our friends sat outside on our building steps and chatted for a while, talking trash and bragging about our escapades with girls, that either didn't exist or were hugely exaggerated. After about an hour, we all decided to go up to the apartment to warm up from the fall air. So we all filed one by one up the 3 flights of stairs, trying our best not to be tripped up by whichever friend happened to be at your rear. I was first to the door, but I had to wait because Aaron had the key. The fact that I stood in front of a locked door should have thrown up a few red flags, because the doors stayed unlocked when an adult was home, and us kids hadn't come in for the night. When he opened the door, I immediately knew something wasn't right. All the lights were off. So I turned on the lights and began to call for my grandma to no avail. I searched the place from front to rear. Nothing. "Okay, this is odd," I said. We stood outside the building from the time we saw her enter the apartment door. We were on the 3rd floor, so there was no questioning each other and ourselves. The door opens and in walks my grandma. She's wearing her red coat with the matching hat and scarf. Her hair was braided in a single ponytail that snaked down her back, and across her body from shoulder to hip was the newspaper bag. Baffled, Aaron and me turned to my grandma for questioning. So we third-degree her, trying to figure out where she was, and how she got past us. "What are you talking about?" she exclaimed. "I just got off the bus 10 minutes ago, and I walked from the bus stop straight home." We explained what we witnessed. We told her how the person looked just like her, and was dressed exactly like her, down to the most mundane details. How the person went into the apartment and disappeared. My grandma, a little shocked and confused, sat quietly for a minute and absorbed all that was said. When finally she spoke, this is what she said. "At the time you guys witnessed me enter the house, I was on the bus. I did, however, doze off on the bus and had a brief dream. I was so dog-tired that all I wanted was to get home. In my dream, I achieved just that. I dreamed that I exited the bus. I walked the short distance from the bus stop, which was on the main highway at the entrance of the apartment complex, to the back of the complex where our building was. When I reached the stoop, I climbed the stairs and opened the building door. It was then that I heard what seemed to be a group of rowdy teen boys yelling and cursing, about to come around the bend. In my head, I thought, please don't let them be my kids and their friends." She said sadly this was confirmed as she turned to climb the 2nd flight of stairs and saw me and Aaron rounding the corner with friends in tow. She said she then reached their apartment door and unlocked it. As she crossed the threshold, she was awakened by a quick jerk and a loud chime. She was still on the bus. Is this possible, we all thought? Was her desire to be home so strong that she astral projected herself across space and time? Or did her spirit detach from the body altogether? Whatever the reason, it left us all feeling like we were unwitting stars of our very own episode of The Twilight Zone. 3. When I was 13 or 14, I went to a sleepaway fine arts camp for about 2 weeks. Very cool, I know. We had to wear uniforms, including specific polo shirts and fleeces we had to buy from the camp itself. The year I was there was when they changed the uniform fleece they sold from a full zip to a quarter zip. That was the only change. Both were essentially the same color and design except for the zipper. So if a camper already had the old one, they didn't need to buy a new quarter zip one, and no one could buy the old style anymore. I thought to myself that I prefer the older kind, because I wanted to be able to completely zip or unzip a fleece, without having to pull the whole fleece over my head every time I changed. Sucks that I can't buy the old one instead. So anyway, at camp we got to pick a smaller class to take for about an hour, maybe every 2-3 days, outside of orchestra rehearsal. I picked the class where every day we did a different type of exercise class like Pilates, yoga, etc. One morning, maybe 4 or 5 days in, I wore my quarter-zip fleece to my orchestra rehearsal, since I couldn't drop it off before exercise class. I put my cello in its regular corner of the room and draped the fleece on top of it. After class I went to grab my cello, but when I picked up my fleece I realized that it wasn't mine. It was the full zip version from past years. It was the same size as mine and everything. Looked around and I couldn't find my quarter-zip fleece anywhere. I thought I was going insane. Did someone take mine and put their old one in its place? Why would they do that, if they could just buy themselves a new one at the camp store? They weren't particularly expensive, It's just weird to imagine someone seeing a draped fleece right in my cello, maybe not even seeing what kind of zipper it had, and thinking that they should take it and leave theirs. Why not take mine and also keep theirs? Was it a coincidence that we were the same size? And who did it if the small studio building only had our exercise room itself, and a restroom and locker room, and the only people who were in the building were all exercising together? Maybe I might have voiced my preference for the old fleece to my cabin mates or friends. But I don't know a single person in the exercise class, and it doesn't seem like my friends would leave their own classes to come replace my fleece, essentially right in front of my face. Regardless, I could see my cello during classes, and I think that I would have noticed someone alone by my stuff, in the front left corner while everyone else was exercising. I've run a lot of simulations of what might have happened in my head, but no version is really convincing me. I did keep my new old full-zip fleece though. Didn't really care that I had no knowledge of its origins, its story. Usually when I think about all of this, I just settle with the whole "the universe granted my wish" explanation. Sometimes I think, someone did trade theirs for mine, and I guess I didn't notice. And I have no idea why anyone would do that. Why doing that seemed like the best way to get a new design fleece. Well, I guess I'll never know. 4. I know that this is going to sound crazy, but I believe an entity is following me or messing with me. I also believe many things have changed somehow, including things I explicitly remember, and memories I only share. I'll start off with saying my big sister Jane. Jane has always been a bit of a nuisance, like many older sisters, but she always came around and was never too bad. Now she is completely different. She has made several choices we thought she would never do. She moved out for 2 years and eventually returned home after breaking up with her child's father. When she came back, she has become a negative person, completely unlike her old self. She has even said some things that were borderline racist, something I know she would never have done. Not only that, but she remembers almost nothing like the way the rest of the family does. To give some perspective, I am 19 and she's 21. We always watched the same children's shows together, but she remembers very few of them, even ones that I remember watching often. She didn't even remember a Christmas special I know we watched several times as kids. She also forgot her aunt's son died 2 years ago, and the text message our mom sent to her in hopes of repairing the relationship. This really upset our mom. Most recently, I found a tacky painting in our attic that belonged to her. It has several 90s rappers on it, and I know for a fact that she was the one who wanted it because I don't really listen to rap. She doesn't remember it at all and even thought it was a present for our dad. She genuinely recalled the events differently. When I asked our mom, she remembered it the way I did. Lately, several other strange things have been happening to me. I lost my earbuds and searched high and low for them. My dad found them in a place I had searched several times. I also was looking for my camera all over my pretty small bedroom. I searched all over my extremely small desk and did not find it. Just as I was about to leave the room, I saw my camera sitting on my desk, with the lamp shining on it. A few months ago, I was getting ready and doing my makeup. I had a loose powder eyeshadow on the counter. When I left to get something, I came back and it was gone. Around 3 months later, I found it inside one of my boots. This eyeshadow was very messy, and since I lost it with no top on it, there should have been a mess in the boots. This was not the case, and it was perfectly neat with the top on in the boot. Finally, every night when I take out the garbage, there seems to be some sort of eerie presence in the woods by the side of my house. I'm not the only one who noticed this. The whole family has, especially my dad. Several birds have made nests on our house to avoid the trees, and a mother bird died without a scratch on her while her nest was still by our window. There have also been several dead animals around our yard. All in all, I feel as though something is following me, or there is some presence in my home or the yard. I feel like I'm being watched or something is always right around the corner. What do you guys think? Edit. I can't believe I forgot to mention this. All 3 of our dogs passed away during the 2 years my sister was gone. First, our perfectly healthy Rottweiler passed away from some sort of illness that we never figured out what it was. Then our chocolate lab passed away from, most likely, old age. He was almost 13. Then our fine and healthy German Shepherd started exhibiting erratic behavior, and died from what we can only say was a seizure. She wouldn't go in the backyard either during this time, which was somewhere she usually loved. This is why I believe something sinister could be out there. Our animals are fine, and we loved them so much. There was no reason for all that to happen so quickly. 5. I live in a tiny town of 8,000 people in Spain. The town is far from touristy spots since it's about 20 minutes from the beach. There is really not too much action going on. We currently have one of our cats missing, so the last few days I am walking around at night since chances are better you might find a lost cat at night. It's 2 a.m. The entire effing town is sleeping. No fricking car on the road. You hear some people snoring from the windows as I walk. In one remote bar on a street, a lady is closing up and sweeping. That's the only sign of life I see in the entire town. The town has one main plaza with the church, and there are several bars. I am approaching the plaza. There is a huge tree in the middle of the plaza, which spawns over a large section of the plaza and some bars. As I approach the plaza, I hear voices. I think that one of the bars must still be open, so there must be patrons still sitting outside. Which wouldn't be too unusual, even at 2 a.m. I'm almost at that bar and about to enter the plaza. It is very dark since all the lights from the bar, etc. are off, and the tree also adds that this part of the plaza is very dark. Not only do I hear voices, I see what looks like someone throwing several lit cigarettes on the floor, or emptying an ashtray on the ground. I see a bunch of orange glowing things falling on the floor. I immediately think that someone from the bar is doing it. There must be some people, and they must have thrown lit cigs on the ground. That would be entirely normal. As I approach, I see that everything is closed. There are no people anywhere, nothing. There is no person anywhere. And it's totally silent, which is eerie enough since the place is usually busy during the day. I look up at the awning of the bar. The branches of the tree are partly going over it, since my only logical explanation would be that people sit on the awning above me, who threw their lit ashes down, but there is no one. It would also not be possible someone being up there, since it's only some fabric type, which wouldn't even hold a person. But this, of course, was my first thought. This leaves me with only one explanation, that someone must be up in the tree. I am totally perplexed and stop. I look up into the tree. I don't see anyone in the tree, and to me it looks as though the branches wouldn't be strong enough anyway to hold several persons hiding in the tree. At fricking 2 in the morning, mind you. Even if there were kids in the tree, I figure I would see them or I would hear them, even if the thought of kids in the tree at 2 a.m. sounds outlandish, to say it mildly. Anyway, I realize the absurdity of this situation, with the orange glowing things and everything, and I literally say out loud, "What the fuck?" while I keep looking around, and then leave the plaza totally puzzled about what I just saw. It's possible, and likely there is some logical explanation, but it was absolutely bizarre. The only explanation I have, I heard someone in the building where the bar is, that someone had been on a window, and then at some point threw something glowing, more or less right in front of me. But when I stopped, I also checked the windows. There was no one there. And this was just, say, a few seconds after I heard the voices. And I also checked the floor and didn't see anything on the floor, like an empty ashtray or buds. Nothing. The whole thing was strange and funny, because it was like elves would be hiding in a tree, and the second I approach, they get spooked or something. I am a grown man, and the most rational person, and I know how ridiculous this sounds, but this is how it felt to me. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Glitch in the Matrix Stories, number 74. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. Well, I am not having a lot of luck with this bicycle of mine. I mean, it gets me around. But I was out the other day, heading into town to do a little shopping, and I was whizzing along. You know, the sun in my face, the wind through what little is left of my hair. And then I came to this area where there's a dance studio, and I think it's either the dance studio or someone who lives in the house next to it that keeps doing this, and it's irritating. They leave their bins out on the street, right? These things have wheels on them, so it's not like it would be hard to move them away. And it would leave them out on the street, and I can usually get by because they're far enough in that there's just about enough room. But this particular day, some nice, lovely, kind, sweet, wonderful person, decided they were going to leave their bins sitting kind of disorganized. So one of them was out much further than it should have been, which left me with very little room. I don't ride my bike on the road because it's safer just to ride it on the pavement, and it's generally quiet enough on the pavements that I'm not bothering anybody. And so I go to get by them, and there's not enough room, so the bike slips and goes onto the road. And I'm like, shit, it's a busy road, can't be on here, so I'm trying to get back up as quick as I can. This all takes place in a few seconds, and as I'm trying to get back up, I take a tumble and go off the bike. So I'm lying there on the pavement. I have to quickly reach and grab the bike and yank it off the road so that it doesn't cause any accidents. So I do that, and then I get back up. Thankfully, I'm not too badly injured. A few aches and pains, but not too badly injured. A couple of scrapes in my hands. And I pick up the bike, and I notice that one of the pedals is broken. Like, the wide part of it is snapped off, so it was like, great. So I get back on it, and it's kinda usable, but not very comfortable and not exactly stable, because I'm missing a pedal. And so what I do is I get up the street, do my shopping, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna have to push this thing home, because I've got shopping bags with me, and it's not exactly. It's fine if the bike's working properly, but if I've got bags, I'm maybe a little unbalanced. So I'm going to need to be able to pedal properly, and I can't do that with this bike. Then I remember, although it's a bit later, that the place I bought the bike from is still open. A place called Halford's is a local place. And so I wheel the bike over there, chain it up outside, I walk in, go upstairs, and I say to the guy, "Bike pedals. Did you order online?" "No, bike pedals." And eventually, I get him to understand I want to buy some bike pedals. And so he takes me and he shows me them, and I buy new ones. I got metal ones this time, like all metal ones. They're a bit shorter, not as wide, and so you kind of feel that at first when you're pedaling them, but they feel much better once you get going. The guy was actually, to my surprise, was not that he's rude. I've dealt with this guy before, but he even offered to put them on for me, free of charge, which was nice. So I was able to actually, he swapped him over for me, and I was able to then cycle home. So I was planning on replacing the pedals on the bike. I just wasn't planning on doing it just a few months after I bought the sodding thing. But that's just how it goes sometimes. So hopefully I don't have to replace any more parts on it soon. And that ends the current installment of Hellfreezer's Bicycle Saga. Okay, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.